Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I want to take some time to talk about where I think the future of Overwatch Esports could be going. Obviously the season just ended, it's very early, we don't really have any evidence to suggest anything concrete about what the future of Overwatch Esports will be. But while I'm still working on some of the other content that I have planned for the kind of post-season 6 stuff that's been going on, stuff like power rankings and whatnot. Wanted to take some time just to get a video out to you all, just to kind of give you my thoughts on where I think the future of Overwatch Esports is going. So that's what today is going to be. So the real kind of thing that kicked off this video and got my gears turning was that tweet from the Overwatch League the day after the Grand Finals, where they said, with the completion of the 2023 Overwatch League season, we will be focusing on building our vision of a revitalized esports program. We're eager to share more with you as details are finalized. This is in line with the months and months of reporting and announcements that have been coming over the past several, months, like I said. There was back in January, the collective bargaining story about how the teams were kind of looking to recoup some of the financial burdens that had been imposed upon them basically as a part of the league. There were the stories about the layoffs from the Activision Blizzard esports divisions. There was also the story about the Toronto Defiant coming to a partnership with the Overwatch League, seemingly to kind of move how to go forward. Of course, I'm sure the Grand Finals was a big part of that. And there was the news that has been reported for a little while, but back in July, when Activision Blizzard announced their 2023 financial results for the second quarter of 2023, they mentioned something. I'll put up on screen so you can see the whole thing that they had included here. But the big thing, of course, is that following the conclusion of the current Overwatch League season, the teams will vote on an updated operating agreement. If the teams don't vote to continue under that updated operating agreement, there will be a termination fee of $6 million that will be payable to each participating team entity, and some other stuff in there as well. It's very interesting to see that this kind of tweet from the Overwatch League seemingly is just kind of putting that out publicly, because the Overwatch League never tweeted about it. So this all kind of connects. It's all really a story kind of in parts, right? The teams clearly say stuff. They start making moves. And so now you start to see how the league is responding. And clearly their response is we have to kind of make changes going forward as the league progresses. And I think when you look at 2023 as a year in Overwatch Esports, I think it gives you some ideas for where the entirety of Overwatch Esports wants to go going forward. Because this year there was, and still are, a lot of events going on in Overwatch Esports. Obviously the Overwatch League is the big thing, and the Overwatch World Cup is another big one, which technically are two separate entities that I believe going forward they're going to try to bring them together more and have just one Overwatch Esports team. But you also have Contenders still going on. Calling All Heroes has been going on. So this year there's been a lot of options for Overwatch Esports that really have not been in play for the past several years, where past couple of years was really the Overwatch League and Contenders, and that was about it. You had smaller tournaments. You had stuff like Collegiate. But generally speaking, the only thing you really had was the Overwatch League and Contenders. This year we've seen more expansion. So if you look at this year as a whole, there's a lot of things to be potentially optimistic about, because we see an expansion in Overwatch Esports. We see that they are adding more than just having the Overwatch League. And I think that shows you that they want to open up the ecosystem a lot more. And there's been a lot of reasons to think that is the case. The Overwatch League has, this year in particular, worked with other groups. I know that they had, I want to say it was Esports Engine that was doing a lot of the production this year. I could be totally wrong. I have no idea. I don't know fully the ins and outs and what was going on, but the studio they used was a Rocket League studio. And so it was a type of thing where they were able to have a nice studio. They're able to do the show by working with partners. I think that's going to continue. There's a lot of reason to think that will continue. Yiska posted a report last month, which was saying that Overwatch League enters talks with tournament organizers for 2024. And those include ESL Faceit for North America and Europe, and WDG Esports, which is who they've been working with in the Eastern region in Asia. So there is reason to think that the direction going forward is to open up the ecosystem more, work with other groups to kind of help create the future of the Overwatch esports ecosystem. And I think the Eastern region for 2023 is really the kind of blueprint for what might happen going forward, which is that there will be some partnered teams. I think that some of the teams in the league are probably going to leave. The Gladiators, the Valiant, the Eternal, those are teams that feel like they probably won't stick with it going forward. They'll take that $6 million and go. But when you think about teams like the Mayhem, like the Reign, like the Shock, like the Infernal, like the Dynasty, like the Fuel, there's definitely some organizations and teams that feel like they are committed to the league and they are committed to continuing with Overwatch Esports so long as the system makes sense, right? The Defiant have been partnering very, very heavily with Overwatch lately and have really been trying to build that relationship because they clearly see that there's value to it and there's reasons to continue doing it. And so I think when you look at the overall kind of esport in general, it's not all doom and gloom. It's not all reasons to be worried. I just think that the Overwatch League needs to really kind of figure out how to open up the format more, open up the ecosystem more to make it more appealing to people. Because I think as it has been, it just hasn't worked. And so I think opening up the ecosystem more to being where those big tournaments are easier to make if you're a partnered program or a partnered organization, but you could technically still make a team with you and 4 of your buddies and play through all of these open circuit tournaments and make it into those big tournaments and potentially make it all the way to whatever the big end of your tournament is, right? Technically, you could do that if this format were to be what we think it's going to be. The problem is, what is that going to look like? We don't know yet. What are the details for that? That's the kind of iron out. But I think you can look at some esports like League of Legends, like Valorant, I think is a very good example of with what they've been doing with their partnered teams and how there is an openness where some teams can play through and get into that area and potentially make it to the end and make it to Masters and potentially win the whole thing. That's, I think, the direction. I think this report from Yiska about working with ESL Faceit, about working with WDG, kind of confirms that. There's reason to look at that and think, okay, they have ideas. There's plans, right? How much stuff is going on in 2023 with outside of the Overwatch League in terms of Overwatch Esports and just generally speaking, all of the chaos surrounding Activision Blizzard, it makes sense that it's going to be difficult. I think it's going to be a rough transition to begin with, but there's reason to, be confident, right? I think the biggest question mark and the biggest sour point is that they are going to lose China quite heavily. China doesn't exist in Overwatch right now. There are no Blizzard games in China right now. You can't play. So, that's a bit of a problem. And there was a report that I saw came out a couple days ago that Bilibili, which is the group that is that owns the Hangzhou Spark, are looking to move Leave, Shy, and Pineapple over into Valorant because that's a way more profitable avenue right now when Overwatch literally can't be played in China, at least without, VPNs and stuff like that. So that is a point for concern, and that is something that you hope that whatever is going on with Microsoft, that gets sorted out and they figure that out and it goes through, and maybe Microsoft owning Activision Blizzard helps bring all of those games back into China because they can work through their partnership with whoever Microsoft's partner is. And that would hopefully be a big thing. But I think right now, if I'm Overwatch and I'm focusing on esports, I think you just have to say you cut your losses and say, look, we just can't focus on China right now. There have been, there's still going to be some presence there. I think people will, you're not just going to lose all of the goodwill that you've had in China, but maybe it's similar to what we've seen this year, which is where Chinese teams can compete in the APAC region if they can find a way to compete, and you just focus on building up North America, Europe, and Korea, and the kind of APAC region at large, and just try to find a format that works. It's almost like a rebirth of the esport, right? Figuring out what works, seeing how to best kind of carry forward without the kind of closed off nature of the Overwatch League that we had in the past, right? I think there's a lot of reason to be hopeful. I think there's a lot of good stuff that has happened in the past, several months. There's a lot of things to look at and think it looks good. But I think this current moment, after what happened at the end of the grand finals, after the kind of emotional moment, the emotional kind of speech from Zoe and all of those montages, I think there's reason to look now and go, oh, this is bad. Like, there's no future. But I think, considering everything we've seen, I think there is a lot of stuff to look at. I know that Avast was being a little bit of a tease on Plat Chat and saying that some of the stuff that he's heard about was actually quite exciting, stuff that he was actually interested in. So I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think there's a lot of things that we will see. It's going to be very different. That much is clear. We know that's going to be the case. It's just a matter of how different, and is it a format that we can all kind of be okay with and vibe with and that we like. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. We won't know until we see it. But I definitely think there is more reason to be excited for the future of Overwatch Esports than I actually would have expected about 2 or 3 months ago. To me, it all seemed like it was in a pretty bad spot, but I think there's a little bit more stuff to be intrigued about and to be excited about than I had expected recently. But those are really my thoughts on everything going on. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on it. If you think there's reason to think that the format's going to be more open, if you think it's going to be anything at all, if you think that it's actually just dead, are you fully on the camp of there is no future for Overwatch Esports? Let me know your comments down below. Like I said, the past couple of weeks, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. Whatever the future of the Overwatch Esports scene is, at least for now, I'm seeing it through because I love this game and I love these esports, and it'll be fun to see how it changes and hopefully how it makes a really good kind of future ecosystem that is more kind of all-encompassing and is more inclusive of more talent than what we have so far. So those are my thoughts. Like I said, let me know in the comments down below, but that's going to be all from me for today. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it in the future, consider liking and subscribing. Thank you all once again. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.